And the program that we're going to share with you today reminds me a lot of a program my daughter went through. She went to a Montessori school, K through 8, when we were in Nevada. And when she was a kindergarten and a first grader, 7th and 8th graders would come and read to them individually. And the kids would get so excited about that in kindergarten and first grade. And as she became older and older, and obviously wasn't seeing them, she kept telling me, I am going to be one of those readers when I'm a 7th grader. And she was. And she was a reader for 7th and 8th grade to all those kids in kindergarten and first grade. She loved it, and it made an impact from the day one for her as a kindergartner and a first grader. And it's now my pleasure to introduce you to an important library partner program that brings children and teens together, and it's Team Read. Team Read is one of the best examples of community engagement leading to positive impact. We've had years of deep partnership with this group. The program is deeply rooted in our community, and it remained accessible throughout the entire pandemic, which is an amazing thing. Their work is more important than ever in addressing that reading loss that I mentioned and fostering that teen communication connection, that social emotional piece that is so critical right now. To hear more about this incredible program, let me introduce former Team Read board member and senior program manager with Microsoft Philanthropies, Jolenta Coleman Bush. We thank Microsoft for their longtime support for literacy and the library, and thank you, Jolenta, for being with us today. Welcome.
Thank you, Tom, Seattle Public Library, and the Foundation. I'm so honored to be here today to discuss a topic and an organization that is near and dear to my heart: literacy and Team Read. Team Read is a literacy program designed for dual impact, ensuring that all kids become strong readers and teens can have access to a meaningful, paid job. Team Read works after school and in the summer to pair elementary students with carefully trained teen tutors to strengthen their reading skills. The little kids in Team Read benefit from one-to-one targeted reading support from a devoted team, and the teens both develop their own skills and experience what it means to help someone else succeed. It's kind of that lift while you climb. I have served on the board for Team Read for the past several years because I believe in the power of reading. As a mother of 2 and educator, I know how critical it is for kids to gain early reading skills and confidence, establish meaningful relationships, and broaden their worldview through stories. Since 2012, Seattle Public Library and the Foundation have been outstanding partners to Team Read by loaning space and support for that year-round programming, allowing Team Read to expand to reading support in some of our most under-resourced communities. It's great to celebrate 10 years of partnership together with you all today. It's also important to note that with the help of Seattle Public Library and the Foundation, and many of you in this room, Team Read was able to continue tutoring almost without interruption during the pandemic, including nearly 500 readers and over 300 teens in the last year, engaging in that joyful and impactful work of reading together. At this time, I want to bring to the stage 2 of our Team Read coaches to share more about their experience with Team Read. Thank you. Welcome. Let's start out by introducing yourselves to the audience. We'll start with Kyle.
Hi, my name is Kyle Gustafson. I am a senior at the downtown school, and this year will be my 3rd year in Team Read, this year as a site assistant.
Hi, my name is Helene Tashkesen. I go to Cleveland STEM High School as a junior. but I'm also working for my Associates of Science degree at Seattle Central College. This is my 4th year at Team Read and 2nd year as a site assistant.
Great. Let's kind of dive right in. So, hey, Lynn, we've heard how the library and literacy help build community. Can you tell us about your own experience with reading and connecting with this community?
Yeah, so I immigrated to the US when I was 5 years old. And my favorite memory to tell everyone is the day after we came here, the first place that we went was the Beacon Hill Library. So that was the first place that I had, had a chance to interact with people. And it was very scary because I didn't know how to speak and interact with these other individuals because I didn't have a language in common with them. So slowly over the years, we would keep coming, and I would come at least once a week, and I would take that chance to attend talk times with my dad, where we would go and talk with other ESL people and have a chance to slowly build that community. And it gave me a chance to gain that confidence. So over those years, I would keep going, and slowly I started interacting with the staff there, and I slowly started making friends with the people who worked at the library. So this gave me a really strong start to high school and to interacting with my teachers in elementary and middle school. So I think this is a big thing for me, and I know I'm not just the only person who has had that community built in the library.
Thank you for sharing. I think you really pointed out how libraries can be a third place for so many members of our community, right? Where it's outside of their regular work or their school, right? It's a place to bring people together to really share, learn, and grow. So thank you for sharing. Kyle, over to you. What have you learned during your experience, your Team Read experience, about helping young readers develop skills?
Yeah, so one thing I've noticed to be the same with pretty much all my students is that they learn so much more effectively when they really enjoy what they're reading. So I think some parts of the Team Read curriculum include reading a book twice, going over words that a student may not know, asking different questions to improve comprehension. And those are all great, but they will never work as well if a student is not enjoying what they're reading. So I think a lot of people, including myself at first, had a main focus on just improving fluency, comprehension, all those things with my readers. But I realized that my most special moments in Team Read are when I can help a student find a book that they truly enjoy reading, and when I can help them experience the wonder of really enjoying a book they're reading. And what I've realized then is that our main goal shouldn't be on, giving them new words in their vocabulary, or improving fluency in reading, or making sure they're comprehending it right. It should just be on helping them find books they like. And if I can just help a student find one book that they really like, then all of those things, fluency, comprehension, they'll follow so much more naturally.
Thank you. I think it's really clear that Team Read strategy is really helpful and important, especially given some of the academic loss that Tom talked about earlier, and great strategy in terms of thinking about there's kids that don't like to read, or they think they don't like to read because they haven't found the right books. And then there's kids that actually need help learning how to read, and you're seeing like you're addressing both. So thank you. Hey, Lynn, what do you think adults need to know about young readers?
So I'll explain this through my own story. When I first came here, when I first started school, all the kids during reading time would go get their books from the bins that were beautifully labeled and would pick up their books and go sit down to read. And then someone would have to bring over a book that was just printed out, half sheets of paper, and staple those together and give it to me to read, because I wasn't at that level yet. I couldn't understand some of those books and what they were talking about. So during that time, I would get many of those books. I wouldn't let the fact that I had, a black and white piece of paper slow me down. I would go home and grab as many of those books as I could and go with my mom and read those books. So we would spend time doing math practice, and then spent the rest of our time reading those books and then talking about what we learned from them. So something that adults need to realize, especially for ESL students, is that these students might not fully comprehend the whole book at first. For me and a lot of students, you have to first pronounce those words. You have to understand how to actually say them. Then you have to understand what that word means, translate it back to your native language, and then continue on to the next word. So at that point, you're basically reading a word and then another word. You're not reading a whole book. So people should not, at the beginning, just expect, okay, what was this book about? You have to help them gain that confidence to understand what they're reading and then be able to implement that into the books that they've learned from.
Thanks. I think you highlighted a really important issue, which is making sure whenever we're building programs that support youth and families, to make sure that they're first student and family centered, asking them and beginning with, what do you want? How do you best learn? Oh, great. Thank you. Kyle, can you tell us about the impact Team Read has had on students and coaches during COVID and school closures?
Yeah, so I first joined Team Read in the middle of COVID, right? So there was no in-person school, there was no seeing friends, there was none of that. And while we did have online school at that point, so there was a space we could go to talk with teachers and classmates, because of the structured environment of school, it made it really hard to actually connect with anyone in a meaningful way. So I think one thing that I found Team Read provided that was super important was just a space that elementary school students and high school students could go after school and just like form a connection with someone. You know, and Team Read doesn't have grades, you know, it doesn't have assignments that need to be completed. So what it really provided for students, elementary school students, was a space that they could go to and just talk about their life with someone who is a little closer to their age and who they may look up to a little more, and just talk about their life, read some books. And that was super important. And I think it had the same effect on coaches as well, because, you know, we also had a lack of connection, and just being able to like read with a kid, it was super important and definitely helped to improve morale and our moods. So I think it was super important to students and coaches throughout COVID in that regard.
Bringing together, you know, relationships and technology really supported a lot of students, including the coaches during this time when a lot of folks felt really isolated. As we sit here in this iconic building, Central Branch, it makes me wonder, and this question is for both of you, what does a library mean to your generation and for your community? Caitlin, let's start with you.
So for me, this library, all of these libraries, these branches have a really special meaning of being a place where you can come to learn. As I think this was talked about before, BIPOC communities, and especially those who were minorities at, you know, years before, libraries were very specific. They were very exclusive to specific groups. So not everyone had the opportunity to explore their curiosity or think of a question and come to the library and look into it. So Team Read and this library is an opportunity for students to learn how to read and have those abilities, those skill sets of learning how to learn new vocabulary and learning how to use comprehension skills and enjoy the books that they read. Then helps them use their curiosity to continue that and come to the library and be like, I'm interested in this topic. Our teachers aren't teaching it. I should go look for a book in that field. Or, this artist or this author is really cool. Let me look into that. So it gives people the opportunity, especially as a place that years ago was not very inviting to all people, to actually see and have that open door and be welcoming for everyone.
Absolutely. So that democratization of access to information, that's really key. And it is truly a social justice issue, ensuring that folks have access to digital literacy, just basic information to really support their day-to-day life. Thank you. Kyle, what do you think the library means to your generation and to your community?
I think that one thing the library has always provided to our generation is a sort of foundation of resources in a way. So I think one aspect of that is finding accurate information. Our generation is unique in that we have access to pretty much more information than anyone has had ever in history. But the downside of that is that we have access to more information than anyone has had in history. So it can be really hard, and it's actually a huge time sink for people my age to find information online that is accurate, unbiased, and relevant to what we're doing. So what the library provides is a sort of bedrock that we can rely on to go, whether it's a chemistry paper or an English essay. We can go to the library online or in person, and I know I can go there and find the information I need to start up on a project or to, like you said, expand my curiosity in a certain subject. And I know I can rely on that. And that is super important to people my generation. And I think the other aspect of that is books. I mean, obviously it's a library. And so they've always had a huge catalog of books in person. And for our generation, having more online resources, they also provide that same access online. So I remember when I first got an e-reader and I found the Seattle Public Library's catalogs of books online. And I started expanding my interest in so many areas, and it really helped me to expand my interest in reading too. So just being able for the library to be able to seamlessly transition to a completely new medium and still provide the same access to everyone, different people of color as well. And just to be able to provide that support with information, expanding our curiosities and interests and books, that's been super important to people in my generation.
Great. I think based on your answers, we know that programs like Team Read and the library are just as relevant today as they were before, and much needed. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciated you all taking the time to really share your experience with us. I spent a little time with both of them this week, and I can tell you that, your generation is in good hands with leaders such as yourselves. So we really thank you for your commitment to literacy and to your community.